the Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce grand jury testimony relating to Epstein's indictment in 2019 on child sex trafficking charges.
India successfully test-fired 2 domestically made ballistic missiles. The country has long relied on imported military hardware, mainly from Russia, which has been the subject of growing international attention since the invasion of Ukraine. FSN's Kshitij Nagar has more from New Delhi.
The short-range ballistic missiles named Agni-1 and Prithvi-2 were fired as part of a, quote, routine training exercise. India's Ministry of Defense says both the launches from a test facility were successful. The missiles are already part of the Indian military's arsenal and form what the government calls its, quote, minimum credible deterrence. Both missiles are said to be nuclear capable. India also tested an upgraded air defense system called the Akash, which has been purpose-built for operations in high-altitude areas. The test was conducted in the mountainous region of Ladakh. Military watchers say the tests should be viewed as a continuation of India's efforts to indigenize its military in the face of growing scrutiny, as the country has traditionally been an importer of primarily Russian military hardware. Kshitij Nagar, New Delhi.
The European Union lowered the price cap on Russian oil and extended sanctions on the country's shadow fleet. The 18th round of sanctions on Moscow will now be adopted after Slovakia dropped its opposition to the measure. Donald Trump denied that he plans to fire the head of the U.S. Central Bank, Jerome Powell. The president has reportedly drafted a letter of termination for the Federal Reserve chairman, but is now walking back claims he's planning to let him go. From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Brought to you by Triangle Access Broadcasting. Here's a look at the weather in the Oak 93.5 listening area. A few clouds around 4 tonight. Our lows will drop only into the upper 70s. Your Monday will feature sunshine along with afternoon thunderstorm chances. Highs in the mid-90s. Mostly cloudy Monday night along with scattered showers and thunderstorms. Lows in the lower 70s. Mix of sun and clouds for your Tuesday. A chance for showers. A little bit cooler with highs in the upper 80s. Mainly clear Tuesday night, lows in the upper 60s, and for Wednesday, sunny and much less humid, highs in the upper 80s. Keep it here on Oak 93.5. I'm nowcast meteorologist Christopher Cawley.
What up? It's your brother Khalif. You're now tuned in to Crossing the Lines Talkback Radio with your host, Brother Franklin, bringing you exclusive topics on issues that affect the black community. So tune in every Sunday at 6 p.m. sharp, airing on 93.5 FM and Facebook Live. BDLB Square. Peace. This episode is brought to you by Frostbite Energy Drink. Feel the chill that powers your passion.
Radio Land. I'm Brother Franklin with Crossing the Line Talk Back Radio, and we talk about issues that affect the black community throughout the country and hopefully throughout the world too. You know, we talk about some very important issues on this show right here, based in Raleigh, North Carolina. As I said before, I'm Brother Franklin, and today I have my co-host. He's helping me out a little here in the studio. Brother Escents, Brother Devine. Brother Devine is a very heavy brother. Now he's heavy. He's gonna lay it on you heavy. This is his first time as a host as well. He's gonna help us out. I'm grooming him to be a host one day. But yeah, today in the studio we have Brother Bobbitt. Brother Bobbitt has been on the show multiple times. Brother Bobbitt is from KCSS University. Brother Bob is going to tell you more about himself and tell you more about his university that he's from. And today our topic is how Western philosophy or psychology have affected the mind of the black man and woman in America. Brother Bobby, talk to the people, brother. Tell them a little bit about yourself, and let's go head in on this subject as well.
Thank you, Brother Franklin. Ausar, a BB for Hodier, African liberation, black liberation, African power, black power, for every black man, woman, and child on the planet. We are the original people. I am the original man. I am a son of Africa. Greetings out there to the listening audience. Today is a very important topic as we'll be discussing how Western psychology has affected the black mind. We're going to delve deep into Western philosophy and Western psychology as opposed to African philosophy and African psychology. And when we talk about African psychology, one of the things that's very important for us to understand is that when we talk about psychology, it's the study of the mind, the soul, and the spirit. And in African psychology, we are spirit. And it's important for us to understand that even the physical manifestation of our bodies is spirit. All is spirit.
Mm-hmm. All is spirit, right, brother?
Yes.
Okay. Brother Escents, start off with the questions, brother.
Okay. Peace, brothers out there. My first time on radio.
Yeah. Won't be your last time either, brother.
So I heard today, where I heard you say psychology is the study of the mind, soul, and the spirit. So how would you describe Western psychology?
Yes. Well, I'm going to describe Western psychology as far as how it affects us as a people, right? And so basically, Western psychology, right, is one of the things that one of our great revolutionists, one of our great psychologists, Dr. Amos Wilson, he stated was that to understand Western psychology, study history, right? So when we study history, we can see everything basically that the Europeans, white people have done on this planet. I mean, you can start with, even before the transatlantic slave trade, the invasions of Africa, right? Africa has always been a target. So within their mind, they target us as a people for exploitation, for oppression, and to basically, in a sense, fuel their economy because of the lack of resources that they have on their continent where they live. So basically, once they were able to understand everything that Africa had to offer to the world, because it's important for us to understand that whoever controls Africa controls the world because of its resources.
Yes, sir.
Right? So this happened thousands and thousands of years ago when they first started invading Africa, starting with the Hyksos, right? Mm-hmm. And then we had to run them out. But then the Persians came, the British came, the Greeks came, and they kept invading Africa and pushing us towards sub-Saharan Africa. So It's important to understand that one thing about Western psychology is to dominate the black man. Because if they can dominate the black man, they don't have to worry about dominating the black woman. So it has affected us wherein by them invading Africa and then with the transatlantic slave trade, right? They took us out of our original environment and stripped us of who we were as a people, right? They stripped us of our names. They stripped us of our culture and our way of life and our understanding. And basically, one of the things that they did was they wanted to break our will. They wanted to break our spirit. They wanted to basically make us feel like we were inferior as a people, right? And they did all kinds of atrocities to ensure this, right? So when we look at the atrocities that the Western world, Western man has done to the rest of the world, it teaches us how they think. Even when we look at what's going on today here in the United States, which is a perfect example of Western psychology with the government that they have in place now. A lot of people are surprised, but we shouldn't be surprised because if we look at the Constitution and we look at the way the Constitution was written, right, basically they label us as 3/5 of a man. Right? So it's important to understand that when we're dealing with Western psychology, they're always looking for ways to justify their misdeeds. One thing that I definitely want to point out, and this is very important, and that is Pope Nicholas V of the Vatican, of the Catholic Church in 1452. He sanctioned and he gave permission to Portugal to go into Africa and explore and enslave anyone who wasn't considered to be a Christian.
This was a church, brother.
Yes, the Catholic Church. And
the Catholics is the father of all modern day religion.
Well, of the Christian faith.
Of the Christian faith. This is crazy.
Yes. And these documents are easy to find. And the document was called the Papal Bull, right? And what the Papal Bull is what they consider to be a legal document by the Pope at the Vatican, right? That basically is announced throughout the world. And so it's supposed to hold a lot of basically legal authority. So one of the reason why they use that, right? Because they wanted to justify slavery. They wanted to do it basically through theology. And then they also wanted to try to do it through legal means.
Yes, sir.
Right? But who are they to make up laws to say, okay, you have to be a Christian, or if you're not a Christian, that we can enslave you? And so we see a lot of that going on today with Western psychology. And the one way that it has affected our minds more than anything, and that is from an inferiority complex, where we have been taught, not to listen to anything dealing with being pro-black or pro-African, right? Western psychology is anti-African and anti-black. To be anti-African is to be anti-black. And to be anti-black is to be anti-African. And there's a lot of propaganda, basically, that's still going on today, where and I see it all the time on the social media platform, where you see black people attacking black people. Black people attacking
I see it all
Africans,
the time, brother.
Africans attacking black people. And this is propaganda, right? When we talk negatively about our brothers and sisters in Africa, when we talk negatively about our brothers and sisters in Haiti, our brothers and sisters in Jamaica, or wherever we are in the world, that's part of the divide and conquer strategy and the divide and rule. The one thing basically that Western man don't want more than anything is the unification of black people.
Well.
So, brothers, I heard what you said about unification of the black people. You named the numerous of different countries. You saying, or better yet, could you describe African psychology for us?
Yes. It's a lot that goes into African psychology, and it's a deep study, right? And we were the first, the originators of studying the mind, the spirit, and the soul. And as I had stated earlier, African psychology is dealing with all the spirit. African psychology is dealing with I am because we are, therefore I am, with the focus on the group. African psychology is based off of the philosophy of Mayat, right? And when we talk about the philosophy of Mayat, we're talking about truth, justice, righteousness, order, balance, harmony, reciprocity, right? These are high values that we basically live off of. And we don't just stop there with the philosophy, because the philosophy has foundational pillars to stand on, like perfectibility, right? Striving for that infinite perfection within each and every one of us, which is the spirit. Teachability. Everyone can teach something and everyone can be taught. It's important for us to work together as a group, right? Free will, right? We had the free will to do Maya, truth, justice, and righteousness, or Isfid, right? Which is jealousy, hatred, anger, the lower aspects of the mind and the spirit. And then we have divine image, right? Our divine image is the spirit. So when we understand that we are spirit and all is spirit, and then we understand the divinity of the universe, and then we have essentiality of moral social practice, which says that the only good that is done is the good that is done for those who need it the most. And at this point in time, we understand it's the brothers and sisters in Africa, where there's 1.4 billion of us, and also those of us that's in the diaspora. So African psychology basically is where, in a sense, like what we would consider to be Pan-Africanism. Right?
Okay.
And that's basically, when we're dealing with Pan-Africanism, that means that basically, like when I open up, I say every black man, woman, and child It involves all of us, regardless of whatever, religious way of life that we choose, regardless of, what part of the planet that we reside on. We understand that the unification of our people is so important, right? Because the reason why it's important, because we were disunited.
Yep.
By people who didn't have our best interests at heart. So when we talk about African psychology, we're talking about where we have an African-centered orientation and understanding who we are as a people. And that's where the knowledge of self comes in, right?
Brother Bobby, it's crazy because a lot of us here in America, particularly black Americans or black Africans, whatever you want to call us, right? We don't even know that we have been hit in the head in the East and brought to the West. we don't even know that we are sick mentally. That a lot of us are out of our minds and we think that is normal behavior. It's crazy.
Yes. Oh, and one thing that I really want to point out, Brother Franklin, and I think this is very important, and that is mental health. Right? Mm-hmm. And the way that they operate here in the United States is they use the DSM-5, Diagnostics Statistics Manual 5, right? Where they have all kinds of symptoms and diagnoses as far as mental health illnesses, right?
Yes, sir.
But in Africa, right, we have our own way of basically determining whether someone is healthy mentally or not. And as I spoke of, Maya, right? So if we look at Western man, right, we know that they have been spreading falsehood since their existence first came into being, right? Falsehood. So they're not living a life of truth. They're not living Maya. So we have the scales of Maya at the weighing of the heart ceremony, right? And this is for when you're going through initiation, right? And it's also basically when you basically pass the physical realm, where your heart, right, which is weighed against the feather of Maya, and the feather represents truth. So your heart has to be just as light as the feather. And we all know that the heart represents the conscious as well and the mind. So basically your heart is going to be having all your deeds and everything that you did within your life. And if it's just as light as Maya, you're able to go to the next realm. Now, if we was to place the Western man, right, heart on the scale of Maya, right, it wouldn't weigh out in balance, right? It'd be very much unbalanced, right? So he wouldn't be able to go to the next level, right? So within our community and within our culture, right, what you do determines whether you are living a life of Maya or not, right? So what we teach the children at KCSSU, right? And Brother Escents, he is one of our master teachers. He's our associate director at KCSSU, and we give presentations and we work with the children and teach them the 10 virtues of initiate or the 10 virtues of a student based off Maya. And the first one is control your thoughts. That's the first thing we teach the children, right? And this is so important because whatever information you receive is what your knowledge is going to be based off of. So if you're receiving information from a Western mindset or European mindset, and then you're basically, in a sense, giving that black child or that African child a false consciousness, a false knowledge, right? Because you cannot separate psychology from consciousness. And consciousness is very important, right? So we teach the children to control your thoughts, but we don't stop there. Right? We give them tools and teach them practices like breathing exercises and meditation to get in tune with the thoughts of Maya. So we teach to think Maya, speak Maya, and do Maya. And the second one is control your actions, right? And your actions, and you can tell where somebody's thoughts are by their actions, right? So these are important things for us to understand about our ancestors, because in Western psychology, they have taught the black man, because they stripped us of everything, and the black woman that we are inferior beings, and not to listen to our brothers and sisters, and not to believe in our ancestors and what they had to offer to the world.
Yeah, the Willie Lynch mentality, turn the young against the old against the young. the man against the younger male, the woman against the younger female. Man,
Yes, indeed. And
the Willie Lynch mentality.
and brother, if I may, because I think this is very important.
Yes, sir.
Because you just made a great point when you said the old against the young. And for the listening audience out there, please pay attention to the words I'm about to speak, right? Because there's a very negative term going on around out here in this world now for our young brothers and sisters, where they're calling them YNs.
YN.
Right? And we can't do that, because that's basically...
And I'm gonna tell you what it stands for. A young nigga.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
I mean, I'm just being straight up, man.
Right. And you
and it's because I don't mean to cut you off, brother.
Right.
But I work in a barbershop, and I hear that from the old heads in the barbershop. They say that a lot about, man. That young YN, man. That's crazy. I mean, why would you consider yourself as a young nigga?
Well, people are easily picking up things on social media these days and repeating it, what they consider to be trends, right?
Right.
And that's why I wanted to speak on this matter, because what we do is we're setting up our young brothers and sisters for failure by labeling them. It's bad enough that they label us as it is. We don't need to label each other, and we don't need to put a target on our young people back.
Yes, sir. You're right about that, brother.
If anything, we should be educating our young brothers and sisters, right? And that's why the knowledge of self is so important, because a lot of times when we get this Western education, we think 4 years or 8 years in college is enough, but it's not, right? Because studying, you have to study for a lifetime, especially if you want to advance and you want to progress. And I think it's important for us to, and I think that we're seeing in the government today that we can't take anything for granted. A lot of times we become comfortable, we become content, and we think that everything is gravy until we get someone in office like who we have in office now, Trump, right? So it's important for us to open up our eyes and open up our minds and not reject who we are as a people, right? Not to reject being African, because another thing that I like to point out to people is that you'll never hear any Asian people or Chinese people downgrading where they come from, or the people that come from where they come from. You won't hear from the Europeans if they do it, they won't do it out in the public. But we all on social media downing one another, denigrating one another, dehumanizing one another, calling each other all kinds of names. And this is something that we have to stop. And when we raise our level of consciousness through the knowledge of self, right, then we start to understand that we have a responsibility to one another.
Well, brother, I always say, if you sit up on an apple tree, or if you stand up on an apple tree, and the apple fall to the ground from the tree, and you begin to eat the apple, is that apple a rabbit, a cat, a dog, or a squirrel? It's still a what?
Still an apple.
Still an apple.
That's right. Don't matter how you came over here. If you came over here on the slave ship, a lot of us was here in America before the slave ship. You see what I'm saying? A lot of us came on our own free will in accord as Africans. You still are African.
True.
So the brothers that have been racially mixed, you light skinned, you still are African. You see what I'm saying?
So
the black blood is the dominant blood. The blacker you are, our blood is dominant. You still are African. You know what I'm saying? My grandmother was a white Indian. I'm still an African. You see what I'm saying? I'm still an African.
So with the philosophy of Mayat, being with truth, harmony, justice,
right,
things of order without chaos. How does this strengthen the mind of people of African descent?
That's a really good question, brother. The philosophy of Mayat is the philosophy of enlightenment, right? And when you're enlightened, you become a coup. And a coup is a part of the spirit that's dealing with supreme intelligence or imperishable stars, where your light is always shining, right? So the philosophy of Maya is the philosophy of enlightenment, right? And these are based off of virtues and principles that's dealing with, like the brother just said, truth, justice, righteousness, order, harmony, balance, all of these things, right? Maya is my father's ground. So when we stand on Maya, we're standing on truth. When we're standing on truth, it strengthens not only the mind, it strengthens the spirit, and it strengthens the will, right? So when we understand Maya, and as I had talked about earlier, you know, when you're talking about the knowledge of self, there are so many different components in dealing with the knowledge of the spirit, right? And what our ancestors taught, and it's important to understand, not only did our ancestors teach it, but it's what we're teaching at KCSSU today. Is what myself and Brother Escents, Brother Jimmy, who was another one of our master teachers, is what we teach at KCSSU. We teach on psychospirituality, the development of the mind and the development of the spirit, right? So the way it strengthens the mind, when we teach the children Maya, and the children are learning at a very good pace, and they understand Maya to be truth, justice, and righteousness. So it's like and it's like planting good seeds within the minds of the children. What it does is it helps to strengthen our foundation. And when we have a foundation in the knowledge of self, and then we don't believe in the false knowledge that's given to us by the people who look to hurt us.
Brother, explain to the people exactly what is Maya. Explain, because a lot of people don't know, and it's listening in Facebook land or radio land now, exactly what is Maya. Break it down, brother, for us, brother Bobby, if you don't mind.
Yes, because Maya is very deep, right? And it's like in our creation story, right? And this is important, that the whole universe is, Maya is the daughter of the creator, Ra, right? So when Maya basically was born, Maya put order throughout the universe. So when we talk about order, we're also talking about truth, right? And so things have to be done in a way that's justice is served. So when we teach the children Maya, we're teaching a foundation of order and structure, right? We're teaching the Maya truth, justice, and righteousness. We're teaching the 10 principles or the 10 virtues of an initiate. Control your thoughts, control your actions, steadfastness and purpose. Have faith in your teacher's ability to lead you on the path of truth. Have faith in your ability to accept the truth. Have the ability to act with wisdom. Freedom from resentment under the act of persecution. Freedom from resentment under the experience of being wrong. Have the ability to know right from wrong. And have the ability to know the real from the unreal. These are some very powerful virtues, right? Because we really do have to understand what's real and what's not real. What's real knowledge, what's false knowledge. We really have to know what's right and what's wrong. We really have to understand that we cannot have resentment in our heart because it doesn't hurt nobody but us. We have to release that resentment, and we have to be able to move forward, right? Because if we have a mindset or a consciousness where we want revenge or something like that, and then we're not operating within our higher self. And I think that that's important to understand, that Maya is one of the keys to the knowledge of self. Because when we live the knowledge of self, and the way you can tell, and this is important, right? And this is from the oldest book in the world, right? Ptah Hotep. And it states that you can tell a wise person by their good actions. A wise person's heart matches his or her tongue. When he or she speaks, his or her lips are straight. The wise have eyes to see and ears to hear that which will profit offspring, right? So that's important. So when we have the ability to act with wisdom, which is number 6, right? You can tell who's wise by what they're doing. what they're doing with the children, what they're doing in the community, what they're doing with their family. Is it good and beneficial for the whole? And I think that that's one of the most important things that we need to understand. What we teach our children and what we teach our brothers and sisters has to be useful and beneficial to the whole.
Mm-hmm. Next question, brother.
Right. So, if a person of African descent accepts this philosophy, ideology, psychology of Western man, can he experience his true essence as the original man?
Wow. No, there's no possible way, because and unfortunately, right, it's been amongst our brothers and sisters contention and strife, because a lot of times, we don't want to accept our own and be ourselves. We'd rather join forces with the people who we think have the upper hand, instead of, being revolutionists and fighting and standing up for our own brothers and sisters and what's right. I think it's important to understand, right, that being the original man, right, that we are the blueprint, right, we are the only direct descendants from the Creator itself, because science has proven that all other people come from the black woman. Mm-hmm. So when we understand that, right?
Yeah, Lucy.
Yes, indeed. Dickenish, yeah. Right. Found in Ethiopia. Well, no, not Ethiopia. I think it was Kenya, right? Yeah. Indeed. Yeah. And they called her Lucy. Yeah. But the name was Dickenish, right? So I think that, as a people, we really have to understand that when we accept the teachings and the wisdom of the ones that came before us, not only here in the United States, but going all the way back to Africa, right, that'll strengthen us. The knowledge of self, it strengthens us, right? But when we take on a foreign ideology, and then our minds become diluted. And I think that, one of the things is through the propaganda, through TV, through the movies, through, written history, that the black man and woman has always been, looked at from a negative perspective. Yep. So much to the point where they make us look at ourselves and look at each other in a bad way. And that's, the inferiority complex. One thing that I think that's important that Nellie Fuller said, right? Nellie Fuller said, if you don't understand white supremacy, everything else that you think will only confuse you.
It will, though, because I was, I was talking to a young brother a couple days ago, right? And I was telling him, I was like, man, being a black man in the South, no one likes us. I could walk down the sidewalk at a shopping center, and as I walk down the sidewalk, people begin to move off the sidewalk, or they try to walk around me. And I haven't done anything to nobody, but just walking down the sidewalk, trying to shop. I mean, why are we considered as a threat? But if you go into the police logs or the history, it's probably little history of us attacking people or even doing harm to people. It's crazy. And the only way it's going to change is, people like ourselves, we got to bring it to the forefront and bring it and keep it on the table and start making people aware of what's going on. Because sometimes that slave mentality is on both sides. It's on the Caucasian side and it's on the black side too. You see what I'm saying? The black man don't know that he's a slave. A lot of young Caucasians today, they don't know that they suffer with that slave mentality as well. You see what I'm saying? And it's really not their fault. It's the system, the government fault.
The Western psychology.
The Western psychology, just like the brother said. Right. The Western psychology. The Western psychology don't care who they make a victim and a fool of. Look at the Western psychology. The Western psychology has been coming to the South for years and years and years, playing the voter trick game. You know what I'm saying? Getting you to vote for this particular candidate because, hey, we're gonna take and put all the blacks back in the Jim Crow. Hey, we're gonna make this person superior over this person. Don't vote for them because of their lifestyle or whatever, right? And once they get into office, they do nothing for black or white. You see what I'm saying? They do nothing for the people of America. And we're the people that keep this wheel turning. Whether you black or white, we keep this wheel turning in America. If we stand up for 90 days, we can change this system. But if you don't have the heart to do it, or if you're a coward, then it'll never happen. Okay, brother, you can go, brother.
On the brother. You chime in?
Oh, no.
Okay, well, just chiming in a little bit with it, and I want to get this question out for you.
Yes.
But the way the Western psychology, like it's still a capitalist. Also, it's a capitalist country. So sometimes the lower class, and they will be Caucasian sometimes, and they will get trapped into it, and they definitely will not know. But a person of African descent with knowledge of self, which is a African philosophy that leads to a strong African psychology. Would this be more beneficial and useful to us as a people, as opposed to the foreign philosophy and psychology, such as Western or Greek philosophy?
Yes, indeed, brother. And now, can you read the beginning of that question again?
Well, a person of African descent with knowledge of self, and of course, knowledge of self is an African philosophy.
Right.
Would this be more beneficial to and useful to us as a people, as a whole, opposed to the foreign philosophy and psychology, such as Western or Greek?
Yes, indeed. And that's what we teach our children at KCSSU, an African Center philosophy, so that they can have an African Center psychology in dealing with truth, justice, and righteousness, and the unification of all black people. And one of the most important things about having an African Center ideology and philosophy, right, and this is important, and that is we were the first builders on this planet. Right. Not only did we build the pyramids, we built everything. We built libraries, we built temples, we built schools, we built all kinds of structures. Right. And I think that, we have become, unfortunately, under this Western world, this Western way of thinking, we have become consumers as opposed to becoming producers, which is our natural state of mind and being. As African people, right? So what we're teaching the children is to be creative with our minds and to educate ourselves, not to go get a job for other people, for white people, but let's build and create jobs amongst ourselves within our community so that we can support one another and do for self, right? When you have a foreign philosophy and a foreign psychology, you think going to school and getting good grades and serving the needs of the oppressor and our exploiters and the former slave masters of our ancestors, we think that we're doing good in life, and we'll sit there and we'll brag about this job or that job or going to that school.
I got a good job at Duke Hospital.
Right. And not even understanding that we are basically playing a role in helping to sustain white supremacy. When we talk about institutional and systemic racism here in the United States, you're not talking about anything but white supremacy. And when you're talking about white supremacy and institutional and systemic racism, you're talking about white people, and basically you're talking about black people, right? Because that's their whole goal and objective. And that is to dominate us as a people, that way that they can maintain power and control, right? But when we take on African psychology, right, and then we start to understand that we have to get these people foot off our necks. We have to teach and help to educate our brothers and sisters and be educated by our brothers and sisters by listening to one another. Because remember, in the foundational pillars of Maya, it's not only in teachability, everyone can teach some, but everyone can be taught as well. So it's important for us to listen to one another, to listen to our thoughts. Let's purify our thoughts, our minds, and our hearts through spiritual development, right? And stop believing this falsehood. And it's so easy to point out the whole concept that the Western world has given to us as a people as far as being inferiority, right? And the one thing I like to point out, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, is when we look at the sun in the sky, right? Don't nobody argue about the sun gives us the light and energy necessary to live on this planet, right? Nobody argues and discusses that we all have to breathe the same air. But then when it comes, so when you're looking at equity, right, and we talk about equity, and equity is really deep, right? But that's a great symbol of equity, the sun, because it shines its light and gives energy to all, just like we all breathe the same air. But then when it comes down to the actual act of living in peace and harmony on this earth, the Western man has decided, because they come from a cold climate with a lack of resources, that they have to use their spiritual nature in a wicked way, in an evil way, right? And so when we understand the two cradle theory, as Dr. Sheikh Anti-Diop spoke on, it was the northern cradle and the southern cradle. The northern cradle being Europe and the Caucasus Mountains, from which the Caucasian people came from, right, with a lack of resources. And then you had the southern cradle, which is Africa, and we had everything, right? So we were in our principles, Shetawat Netta, right? Shetawat means the secrets, mysteries hidden. Netta means nature, cosmic forces, creation, creator. So in our 14 principles of Shetawat Netta, right, it says Shetawat Netta enjoins the sharing of the resources, right? And we have all the resources in Africa. So we shared with one another because we had an abundance, right? That's the southern cradle. So our values and principles are based off of Maya, and we believe in sharing with one another. But when we take on a Western psychology, it's every man for himself, right? And so once the northern cradle, Caucasians found out that all the everything that they needed was in Africa. And that's when they started planning, organizing, and plotting on how to invade Africa.
Yeah, if I understood that correctly, I think I heard you say it's good to have your trades and all from the 4, 5, 8 years of schooling, getting doctorates and all that, but it's also even greater to have a knowledge of self, and to understand self.
Well, no, I'm not going to say that, brother. I'm not going to say, because see, this is important to understand, right? Because a lot of times we do more damage when we get these educations for our brothers and sisters. And this is what Carter G. Woodson was speaking on in the miseducation
of the American Negro.
Of the Negro, right?
Okay.
He was talking a lot about the pastors, the educators, those who go to college to get, their degrees and things of that nature. And it's supposed to be to go back to the community.
The talented 10, they never, but the talented 10, they never came back.
Well,
I mean, a few did, but the talented 10, most of them go get educated and don't come back to the community. I got family members that come from the hood that got educated and then come back to the community. My own family. I mean, people that I looked out for help, and they got educated and don't come back to the hood, the community, and do nothing.
Right. Well, I mean, it's good to get an education and get a degree, but it's even better when you have the knowledge of self, right? My Jegna, Dr. Elijah Mickle, Baba Akmos, right? He's a Grand Master teacher. He went to a HBCU, but he furthered his knowledge through the knowledge of self, right? Matter of fact, he's over there in Africa right now getting more direct knowledge, right? So it's good you can get that education because it does has its purpose. But like Carter G. Woodson said, right, the miseducation of the Negro, sometimes that can throw us back even further, because when you're miseducated and you're taking on a Western and you've been taught by the enemy, right, they're going to teach you that you have achieved, right? Now, your brothers and sisters, they might not be on that level, but they'll have us looking down on our own brothers and sisters because we now went to a PWI or we now went to a HBCU. And this is important to understand about the HBCUs, right? The HBCUs are a breeding ground for black Greeks, right? And I think that, that's dangerous, right? Because we're the original people on the world. And when we understand that when the Greeks invaded Africa, right, they were anti-black. They were anti-African.
And they teach you to be anti-black.
Indeed. They teach you to be
what I'm saying? I mean,
right. We look down on our own brothers and sisters as if we are the problem, right? They send our children into these hostile environments called school, which is an institution. And these institutions are tools of white supremacy. And then they want to assess our children, not based off of the environment that our children come from, or based off of the culture that our children come from, but they want to do it based off of how they feel our children should line up as compared to their children, which is very unfair to our children.
I mean, I want to be honest, man. We're not the same people. I mean, our chromosome and DNA is totally different. We're not the same people. You can't teach and diagnose us the way you diagnose yourself or them.
Agree.
Yeah, and before we move on, I want to get back to that about our children in school, right? Because as I stated on other shows, I have a lot of love and admiration for the Nation of Islam, because the Nation of Islam is the one that woke me up and gave me the knowledge of self when I was incarcerated. And I remember I was talking to my cousin who's the captain for the Nation of Islam, Brother Captain Jawan, here in Raleigh, and we was building the other day, and we was building about Yaqub, right? And how basically, the Nation of Islam and the most honorable Elijah Muhammad were the first to really teach on genetics. When they was talking about how Yaqub was playing, with the two metals, the positive and the negative, right? But then, and they was breeding the dark with the light. But then when the dark babies was born, right, the mother would have the baby. It would be a doctor, it would be a nurse, it would be a minister, and it would be an undertaker, right? And so basically, they would tell the mother that if it was a dark baby, because they were trying to kill off the black babies, right, to make them lighter, right? And they would tell her, your baby was such an angel that we had to send them straight to God, the Creator. And what they would do to kill the baby, they would stick a needle in the baby's brain and kill him. And that's the same thing basically that's going on today with our young black baby in the educational system, right?
The needle in the brain.
They're being basically given psychotropic drugs. They say that they have mental health issues, but they're giving them mental health issues. And we are allowing them to medicate our children at an age when they shouldn't be medicated. These children don't even have a chance. And see, that's part of Western psychology, right? And that's to make us think that something is wrong with ourselves and something is wrong with our children. And then when we take it further, when we look at the school to prison pipeline, the children that they target right? The label with ADHD and ADH and all that other stuff are the children that they are targeting to send from school to prison. That's the school. That's the school to prison pipeline, right? And when we understand prison, right, and understand this country, see, Western psychology is dealing with a slaveocracy, right? And we're the target as black people, African people. Anytime that you can enslave a whole group of people for over 400 years, that's atrocious.
Well, I say 500.
Yeah, 500.
100 years of Jim Crow. I really say 570.
Well, one day
it's still going on. Well, I say it's still going on because mental slavery is what we battling with in this country.
Yeah, well, one day is too long. But I'm talking about the physical slavery, right, in prison, slaveocracy, the 13th Amendment, right? That's why the Constitution, has to be done away with, because we didn't have anything to do with the Constitution, but yet we fall up under the Constitution. One thing that Kwame Ture said, right, that's very important about the movement, and this is what we have to get clear with our brothers and sisters. Some people joined the movement because they wanted to join the system and make the system better. But some people wanted to do away with the old system and bring in a new system. And I think that what has to be done. And I think that's where a lot of times the confusion has come, amongst us as a people.
Yes, sir.
And that's why I think so many people are disappointed in the government today, is because they believed in the government that didn't have their best interests at heart from the start.
I mean, and the government is crazy. The government don't have black or white best interests. they just straight pimps, man. You know what I'm saying? They just straight pimps. They pimp everybody.
Yeah, monetary loss in the game.
Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? It's just, but it's like Brother Bobby said. That's that European philosophy.
I mean, when we really think about it, right? And I think, see, this is why African philosophy and psychology is so important, right? Because we really focus on the mind and thinking, right? Because thinking is our first line of defense, and that's why we teach the children the first principle: control your thoughts.
Yes,
but
sir.
they have to be the right thoughts, right? Because we talk about literacy a lot, and we talk about being able to read and be able to comprehend. But what's just as important is reading the right material and comprehending the right things. So if we're reading European material and comprehending European material, and then we're getting a false consciousness that's not good to us,
good, man.
because it's anti-African and it's anti-black. And as a people, we have to be honest with ourselves. And that's why, have the ability to know the real from the unreal. We have to be honest with ourselves as far as our position in the world today, not only here in the United States, but throughout the world. Right. And I think another great example of Western psychology, and I want to point this out, is the Berlin Conference in 1884 and 1885, where 14 countries, including the United States with the Berlin, Germany, to decide how were they going to split up Africa. Right, the big continent, because they didn't want to have to go to war with each other. So what they decided to do is, we're going to rule over the Africans. We're going to rule over their land. And that's when they start splitting the lands up. This was after the Emancipation Proclamation, right? So you see that their mindset never changed once they banned chattel slavery, right? But yet, these countries were able to go into Africa, colonize the people,
and colonize,
murder the people. You look at what Leopold and them did from Belgium,
man,
in the Congo.
Wow, cut hands
off and killed over 20 million people. Yes, it's just an atrocious history, recent history, 1884, 1885, and then our African nations didn't start receiving their independence till the late 1950s and early 1960s. And then when you understand the great leaders that have came, not only in Africa, but even here in the United States, right? Their mindset is murder, violence, any means necessary to stop any type of movement of black people or African people uniting. Thomas Sankara, right? 1987. Patrice Lumumba, 1961. Malcolm X, 1965. Dr. Martin Luther King, 1968, right? So there's also a psychological ploy that they use to put fear in our minds and not to challenge them. And that's why you don't hear a whole lot of talk about the Western mind, the Western man, and what he's done to African people, because in their minds, they'll silence you. So what we do in our fear is we silence ourselves. But when we get the knowledge of self, we become fearless and we understand our role and responsibility on this planet.
Colonization is nothing but being enslaved in your homeland. Mm-hmm. That's what colonization is. But the good thing about, it ain't no good thing about colonization, but they was able to keep their culture and their gods. You see what I'm saying? When we was brought through here, when we was brought to America, we was stripped of our culture, God, religion, our mind, our soul, and we was given something. You see what I'm saying? We are a people that's Black Americans in this country. We have no culture. Well, one guy told me, well, yeah, yes we do. We got rap. Man, rap is not a culture. Rap is just a genre music.
Right. We do have we have a culture. We just lost our culture. It was stripped from us.
I mean, right. I mean, we don't have a culture. As speaking as a whole Black people, we don't have a culture now. We lost our culture when they brought us over here. They stripped of you. They stripped of us over. They stripped of our culture. God took all that from us and gave us what they want us to have. You see what I'm saying? I deal with a lot of brothers from Africa. I cut their hair in the barbershop, and I've been dealing with them for years. I always had a large African clientele. I mean, it's a difference, It's a difference from us to one of our brothers from Africa. It's different, you know what I'm saying? I mean, but I have learned over the years to absorb and get knowledge from them, and they get knowledge from me as well. But I admire what you're doing, brother, because we got to go back home. We got to get back home mentally. If it's not physically, at least get back home mentally.
So if I'm hearing correctly, or I'm understanding correctly, like colonization and all, then I think I heard you say we were stripped of something. So are we stripped of our culture, our language, our whole way of life? So are we saying we was given a different religion and all? So is this Christianity, is this a Western religion?
Yeah.
And if so, how does this affect the Black mind?
Wow.
I
really like that question.
I like that one too, brother.
Most definitely, when you're talking about white Christianity, when you're talking about Europe, when you understand that Christianity is a part of the Catholic Church, and the Protestants, they came out of Great Britain, England, and
Council
all
of
those
Nicaea
places, right? And but still, they're up under the Catholic Church, right? And this affects us in a negative way, right? Especially when you understand how, for instance, the Pope Nicholas V, right? How, and I spoke on this earlier about the Papal Bull, which was a document that basically granted Portugal the right to go into Africa and enslave the Africans. This went on for 400 years, right? So basically, also what the Catholic Church they had a couple of those Papal Bulls where they basically they doubled down on the institution of slavery, right? And this went on, like I said, for over 400 years, right? So it was anti-African, right? Which is a Western psychology, right? Which is a Western religion. See, it's one of the tools that was used and is still used as support of white supremacy.
Gnosticism religion.
And white supremacists, right? That's really where they do a lot of their planning was in the church, right? So when you're talking about a religion, right, that we have that was forced on us, and that's important to understand, right? Now, when you look at North Africa, it's inhabited by the Arab nation, right, Muslims. When you look at Southern Africa, right, you got the Dutch there, you got the Christians, right, and then everywhere else you have Islam, you have Christianity. And that's why it's a whole lot of conflict between, certain nations and things of that nature, because we've taken on, because you got to understand, the first slave trade was with the Arabs.
The Arabs.
Right? So this has been going on. So both religions are really anti-black and anti-African.
Yeah.
So yes, Christianity is a Western religion, and basically, unfortunately, like say in our black churches, our African American churches, right? When you see a picture of a white Jesus Christ, just think what that image does to the mind of a young black child, or even a black adult.
To an old black adult.
Every person that they come into contact with that's white, they gonna think it's superior to them,
right?
And it gives them an inferiority complex.
And I was a victim of that. So I want to be straight up. I mean, I grew up in the South. I was a victim of that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, a lot of us in this, probably all of us in this room was a victim of that at one time too. We learned better. You see what I'm saying? Because it plays on your subconscious.
Well, no, I was never a victim.
I mean, I was a victim of I just wanted. I was a victim. I grew up in the church holiness. My mama say whatever, but I was a victim of that because that plays on it. It gets into your subconscious, man. And,
of course.
And you begin to I mean you do stuff and you don't even know that you're doing it. You see what I'm saying? You start you are a servant and you don't know that you're a servant because you've been conditioned that way for so many years. In your younger years or in your years period, you've been conditioned to be a servant. To white people, and you don't know that you're doing certain things because it's been a tradition. It's been a part of you for so long. I mean, for example, I lived in New York for a while, right? And here, I mean, we're very humble towards people. We call it respect. We call it mannerism. We call it good Southern hospitality, mentality. Whatever, that's what we call it, right? But I noticed, like, the way my cousin moved in New York, if you give him respect, he's gonna give you respect. But if you don't give him no respect, he's not gonna give you no respect. We've been taught in the Southern District to give people respect that don't give us no respect. I mean,
well, I think it's important for us to know, see, and that's why the knowledge of self is so important.
Right.
We shouldn't seek respect from other people. We have to respect ourselves and
respect yourself.
one another, right? See, we got to stop wanting white people to validate who we are.
That's right.
We got to cut that out.
We got to cut it out. If you don't validate who I am, I mean, first of all, low self-esteem was embedded in the slaves and our forefathers of the South. Low self-esteem, and if you come from institutional slavery, you got low self-esteem to a certain extent. You see what I'm saying? It's just that you have to get knowledge of self, like you were saying. You got to build yourself up mentally, and you got to move forward in life. And it's hard to build yourself up mentally sometimes. You got if you got to get with an organization. I mean, if you got to get with a good church, because it's some good churches out here that do teach the truth. If you got to get with a good organization, you know what I'm saying? Build yourself up mentally so you could get past that slave mentality.
Understood. I
mean, even the organization what you have, Brother Bobby. I mean, you take people that have low self-esteem. They do have these young kids that you dealing with, that you getting them out of the hood. They have low self-esteem. You build them up with knowledge of self through an organization.
Well,
and you make them develop a great. I am somebody.
Right. Well, the children, really, I'm gonna be honest with you, right? See, a lot of people think, right, and
Yes,
this is
sir.
important. They think when we pick up the children that we just taking the children to have a good time.
But the
Like
parents come along.
we took them to the pool. We took them to the pool yesterday, right?
Yes, sir.
And because we like for them to have fun and enjoy themselves. But what we're teaching them is deep, right?
Yep.
And it's something that they're going to always remember. Our children don't have no self-esteem issue. It's the adults,
Yeah.
right? Because of what the information that we have received all of our life, right? That's why when I was incarcerated and I came into the knowledge of self, I put the organization together because I wanted to come out here and work with the youth to give them an honest chance and plant the right seed so that they'll grow up with the right knowledge. See, it's the information that we receive, that's the knowledge that we're going to have, right? And so we control our thoughts and we control our actions, and then we understand that we have a divine purpose, right? So it's important for the black man, woman, and child to realize that we do have our own, and we do have to tap into it, right? And self-esteem issues, basically, once you come into the knowledge of self, you don't have that. Because when you come into the knowledge of self and you have the knowledge of who you are, your essence, your true essence, your spirit, you know you're not second to anybody. You know your brothers and sisters are not second to anybody. The knowledge of self, and this is important to understand, is not the individual self, it's the universal self. So it's all of us working together. Like when I say I am because we are, therefore I am. And one thing I want to say, and I think that this is important, right? Because at our last town hall meeting on May 4th, KCSSU, we did a town hall, and it was titled "The Knowledge of Self: The Key to Black Unity and Black Liberation," right? And out of that meeting, it was a question asked by a panelist, and Brother Minister Allen X of the Nation of Islam, he talked about the local organizing committees, right? And so, basically I raised my hand and I said I'll be the first to join, right? So we put together the Volley Lock 9, right, with its 9 ministries, right? Because we want to be able to address issues dealing with agriculture, dealing with education, dealing with justice, dealing with trade and commerce, science and technology, health and human services, information and media, and defense, right? All of these different components are important for us to get in our community and work with so that we can bring unity. Because once we come together and we unify, we become more powerful, right? So when we talk about the Ministry of Trade and Commerce, this is very important because remember, African psychology is to build, right? And first we build our spirit, our mind, our character, and everything else, right? Like I stated earlier, we built the pyramids, the first pyramids. We built all kinds of great structures. We built them even after the Emancipation Proclamation, right? Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rosewood, Durham, North Carolina, Wilmington. It's time for us to build again. And that's one of the goals and objectives, and I'm the chairman of Volley Lock 9, and that we really want to do is we want to start, find a project that we can work on together, as a community and build a structure, build an institution where the institution belongs to the people. That is psychotherapeutic to the mind and the spirit when you see your hard work building something that's going to benefit you, your family, and the whole community. But we don't stop at one structure. We have to build, and build. But we have been taught under Western psychology to get a job and just get us a nice house and get us a nice car instead of building for ourselves, creating for ourselves, and really understanding wealth. And one thing I want to point out that Dr. Amos Wilson said, and this is very important. He said the wealth of a people is in their mind. Right? That's the first thing we teach. Control your thoughts. Right? Psycho-spirituality. We have to build up the mind and the spirit. Right? Another thing that was said by Dr. Amos Wilson. Right? We didn't lose the land in Africa because the land is still there.
Yeah.
We lost our minds. So it was forced on us. But once we get our minds back together, that's when we regain control over what rightfully belongs to us as an African people.
Right about that, brother.
And we need to wake up as a people and realize what we have, even if we don't move back to Africa. We can still do business through trade and commerce with our brothers and sisters, not only in Africa, but throughout the diaspora. And we have to take these things seriously. But we're taught not to invest in ourselves, Not to invest in our children, not to invest in our future, but let's see how much money we can spend with the Europeans.
But last week I was in Baltimore. Baltimore is a black city. Black people do business with each other. Emerson Avenue, Emerson Village was just bought by 40 black women. They bought their shopping center. So
right, that's nice.
So they putting it together. Man, we gotta and I can't say the whole South is like this. What I'm getting ready to say, it's in pockets. Now you go down to Atlanta, we doing it right, but you go to Greensboro, we doing it. But in this Raleigh Durham area, man, we need to get our act. We got to get our act together because we got to do for self. We cannot continue to be like Lazarus at the gate of the rich begging for crumbs. You know what I'm saying? We got to start doing something for ourselves.
Yes, indeed, brother.
Yes,
and that's
sir.
why I really appreciate, you inviting me, to be on your show, to share thoughts, with our brothers and sisters, right? And try to plant seeds, of truth, justice, and righteousness in my eye, and try to provoke thought within our brothers and sisters. It's never an attack on anyone. It's not an attack, on any religion. And the religions have been bad for us.
Yeah,
they've done a lot of damage to us as a people, right? And just because, we'll turn on each other, right, for the sake of trying to defend institutions that not only has damaged us in the past, but still damaging the mind. When I was pointing out, like when I pointed out, when a black child, sees the image of a white man as, the son of God, that's damaging.
Yeah.
And we really got to look at that. We can't just go along with it because that's what our grandmas went along with and things of that nature. We were just coming out of slavery.
I mean, I heard some of the older people, well, it worked for me. I don't know why it won't work for you. I mean, have you ever thought that God works on grace and mercy? You know what I'm saying? I mean, God works on grace and mercy. He know that she or he or whatever you want to call her. I mean, God know that they gave you the wrong picture, that they painted the picture white. He know that.
That was done intentionally.
I mean, God know that they tell you color don't matter. But if Jesus, you sure, if he was black, why you paint him white? You see what I'm saying? If his name was Yeshua or Yahshua, why you change it to Jesus? You see what I'm saying? At the Council of Nicaea. If it wasn't important, why did you change? So I mean, you got to look at that, and we say that terminology or that slogan a lot. Well, it don't matter what color he is. I mean, you got to review and examine the whole puzzle. You see what I'm saying? It does matter. King James was a slave trader. He was a slave trader. It's in history. It ain't what I'm saying or what I made up or I'm spewing hate or anything like that. If you study the internet, they say it's a curse, but it's also a blessing too if you know what to put in the internet to obtain and get the information. King James was a slave trader, man. Why you think they got Jamestowns all over the world? Jamestown in Jamaica, Jamestown in America, Jamestown here, Jamestown there, because he was a slave trader. He traded slaves. That was big business back in those days. You know what I'm saying?
It still is.
And it still is. To enslave a person mentally, physically, financially, man, is the most wicked thing that you could do. Black people do it each other. We enslave each other mentally. We enslave each other financially. You know what I'm saying? We enslave each other with classism. I'm better than you because I got a Lexus. You don't got no Lexus, or you got a pair of Jordans on and I don't have a pair of Jordans on. Man, cut that foolishness out, man. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
I mean, but that's that Western what?
Psychology.
Psychology.
And, that's, and
that classism.
And something we forget is that some of them great Greek philosophers, Pythagoras, Plato, Socrates, those type, they studied in the land of Kemet, and they, and so they know the philosophy, and they know that if we really get an understanding, if we get an understanding now of the philosophy, that how much superior we would have been. So they used that Western psychology to infuriate us.
But the mind of God don't even work that way, man. I mean, you can turn your back on God. You can blaspheme against God, and He'll still take you back. And that's how black people are. We have the minds of gods. We're the original people of planet Earth. If God made man in the image of Him, what is that saying to us, to you? We don't even think that way. We was enslaved for 500 years in America, right, man?
And
we don't even think about making them slaves or making their descendants slaves. The only thing we want to do is live comfortably and be respected and leave us alone.
and that's our natural.
That's our natural. That's part of that's our essence. That's who we are.
And me personally, I grew up in the South, and my mother, she said that it was a Baptist house, but it wasn't forced. Religion wasn't forced on us.
It wasn't forced upon you.
Right. So I had a chance to reach out and find myself, and I keep hearing the brother mention the knowledge of self. I first started getting my knowledge of self, or my self-awareness through Islam, as self-Lord and Master. I started with Clarence 13 X and the Nation of Gods and Earth. And
Clarence.
And then I moved on and I studied a lot of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali with the MSTA or the Canaanite Temple.
Both of these guys was from North Carolina.
Yes. Yeah, well, Clarence was from Danville.
Danville, Virginia, right there at the line.
So, but as I continue to study and I start to see more and more of the Islam, I see that how it differs from one region to others. So I guess what I want to ask here, brother, is Islam based of Western philosophy?
Well, that's a really good question. In a sense, it is. In a sense, it isn't. The sense that it is, right, is when you understand Islam. Well, I'm gonna say the sense that it isn't is because it's dealing with the Arab culture, right, of the Arabs, the Arabs, their culture, their way of life, their way of living, right. The Christians, they had already, been in existence for a little over 1,000 years, and they had a book. And the Muslims, they wanted a book, so they got the Quran, right. So when you understand, right, you had Judaism, Christianity, Islam, right, and when you understand all of them based off of, some of the same characters,
some of the same process,
like Abraham, for one, Noah, Jesus, Mary. So a lot of their teachings are basically the same with the same characters, right? So it does have some Western philosophy and psychology in it because it's dealing with the mind.
It does, right? And I'm gonna give you some history, man. I study a lot of stuff. I done read and did a lot of stuff, right, man. When Muhammad became the superpower of the world, right, the Roman Catholic Church or the Roman government was on the downfall. You see what I'm saying? Muhammad, he did business with the Romans for a long time. You see what I'm saying? It was said that Khadijah was given to him from the Roman government. I mean, you can Google it. It'll pop up. It said that Khadijah was a Catholic nun. She was given to Muhammad from the Roman government as a gift for some work that he had done, for them. I mean, so it's connected. You know what I'm saying? It's connected. I love the Most Honorable Muhammad because he said that he taught Islam from a Black American perspective. The Honorable Muhammad, he know the truth. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I mean, he was a very wise man. He been down a lot of rabbit holes, as I would say, right? You know what I'm saying?
I think it's important to understand
Yeah.
too, because the question as far as it a Western, do they take on the Western philosophy and Western psychology? I say in a sense it does, in a sense it doesn't. The sense it doesn't is because of their culture, right? But in the way that it is the same when you look at, for one, mind control,
Yeah.
right?
It's mind control.
And for another, both of them seek the same thing, world power, right?
And that's why they always fighting.
And both of them
Telling you.
has used religion, right, as a way to gain power,
Right.
So when you look at the Crusades and when you look at the battles and the wars between the Christians and the Muslims, right? Is there a war going on today between the Christians and the Muslims?
They fighting again.
I think so. Yeah.
There's a war going on right now.
I mean, but you got to realize something that the Arabs enslaved black people 1,000 years before the white man even came on the scene. Matter of fact, the modern day Mecca or whatever you want to call it, what is nothing but the modern day, but the old Persia. The old Persia was the maiden trading post for the world at that particular time. That's where the Arab introduced the white man to slavery. He took the white man into the jungle, into the villages, and introduced him to the chief and got the slaves.
Wow.
It's the truth. I mean, I'm just telling you straight up. It's the truth.
I definitely know.
Yeah,
Understood.
and you can this is not what I made up or what I'm saying. Study the history. The internet, man, will tell you the internet. It's a powerful tool. You see what I'm saying? And they go, and believe it or not, they're gonna shut it down here eventually. Because too many people are getting too much knowledge. Too many people are becoming smart. You see what I'm saying? They're not. They learning. The average Joe is learning. You see what I'm saying? This knowledge. They say knowledge ain't for everybody, but it is for everybody. You know what I'm saying? If you reach out and get it, you can have it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it sound like
I mean, that's why I say that Catholicism is the mother and the father of all religions, all modern religions. It is.
Yeah, it definitely sound like
I mean, it
Christianity
is.
and Islam is following the same path.
Yeah, and Judaism, all of that is really basically dealing with the same thing. And like I say, when you look at even you look at Judaism, right? They all basically try to deal with power. But see, it's important to also understand, even though they fight the Christians and the Muslims, like you say, they still make deals and they still work together because, you know, they coexist also at the same time, right? Because when you look at the way Africa, right, and I really want the brothers and sisters listening to really think about how, you know, Africa is inhabited and controlled by foreign, you know, people. And, you know, just like the whole North Africa is Muslim.
Both of them crooks have been robbing Africa for years and years and years. It's like the African brother said on the podcast. He said, "What was we doing before Islam and Christianity came to Africa? We had our own deities. We had our own gods, and they was working."
Right. And one point that I want to make, right, and this is important, and this is really for the brothers, black men, right? First and foremost, we have to be African warriors, black warriors, right? We have to take on the responsibility of protecting our women, protecting our children, protecting our communities, protecting everyone, right? I give this brother here, Brother Escents, a lot of credit. I call him a true African warrior. The brother get up every Saturday morning. He drive the bus. We pick up the children. He teach the children. He mentor the children. He talk with children about things in private that'll help them out in their life. And those are the type of brothers that we need. We need true African warriors and black warriors who don't make excuses for white men and because of the fear of the white man. One of the things I was taught when I first started studying is you have to conquer the white man in your mind.
In your mind.
Once you
brother.
conquer the white man, you realize that they're not superior, right? And that's how the Nation of Islam really helped me out. It's just like when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that the white man is the devil. Based off of what? Based off of their actions, right? Only thing you got to do is look at the things that they've done. They are acts of devilishment. When you're talking about enslaving people, when you're talking about killing people by the millions, like when they dropped the bomb on Hiroshima, and what was the name of the other one?
Nicaragua.
Yeah.
And we even gonna go back to Haiti. It wasn't no earthquake in Haiti. What's the guy from Nicaragua, one of those Spanish countries? He told it. He said that they tested the bomb on the bomb that a missile that went up under the water and hit the side of the surface of Haiti and caused a earthquake on that side of the island. Why didn't the other side of the island have an earthquake? Why Haiti only had the earthquake?
Right. And you know, like I was stating about how we had to be African warriors and black warriors, right? And we pride ourselves as black men on our physical strength and our ability, you know, to run and fight and things of that nature until it comes to the white man, right? And then we fearful, right? We get scared, but we'll throw down with each other anywhere. And see, we got to stop that, right? Because that's when we're operating up under the way the Western man and Western psychology wants us to conduct ourselves. Divide and conquer, divide and rule. Keep us at each other's throats, right? And they did that. They do that in Africa all the time. Amongst the different nations and the different tribes and things. They supply both sides with weapons, and then the coup d'etats. Where they basically pay for the overthrow of a government so that they can serve their best interests and things of that nature. And see, anytime that we're not able to really have that warrior spirit, and then we're not benefiting our brothers and sisters, right? Because our goals and our objectives should always be to put protection on our people and gain power. Power is very important. Consciousness is power, right? So we have an African consciousness because consciousness is basically based off of your psychology, the way your mind works, the way your soul works, the way your spirit works. So when we have an African consciousness, we're operating on a higher frequency, and we're understanding who we are as a people and what we have to do. And we don't blame each other. See, that's one of the tricks that Western man has done to us, and that is to blame the victim. Right? And I hear it all the time where we want to blame our parents because of the educational's inability to educate our children. So they want to act like something wrong with the children, but ain't nothing wrong, with the education system. But when they see our children, automatically they see our child coming in to school with a deficit, right? Suffering from deficiencies. Because this is how the Western mind has been trained to look at black children. So if you send our children to schools where over 85% of the teachers are white females, they're already looking at our children in a negative way, right? That's why it's so easy for them to try to place a label on our children so that they can stick that needle in the brain of our children. And
also, I want to give when you talked about Africa again, Ibrahim Touré. I want to give a special shout out to Ibrahim Touré. That brother is doing a wonderful job in the motherland. He's bringing it together. He's bringing it together piece by piece.
Yes, and see, and that's a great point, brother. And I think we got to take it back a little further because I spoke on Thomas Sankara, right, who was the president of Burkina Faso that was killed in 1987, right? And he even came up with the name where he had a part to do with Burkina Faso. And Burkina Faso, it stands for the land of the honest people, right? And so what Ibrahim Troy has done is he is up under the teachings, right, of Thomas Sankara. They say he's coming in the spirit of Thomas Sankara with the free education for the children, the free health care, for all his brothers and sisters, the farming techniques that they're implementing, how he is only receiving the salary of a captain, and how all his administrators and all his ministers have taken a cut in their salary to benefit the people. That's true leadership, right? See, true leadership is when you serving the people and you have the people's best interests at heart and you're not serving yourself, right? So Ibrahim Troy is a perfect example of divine leadership for African people from a Pan-African perspective. And
Yes,
I
sir.
think, a lot of people are familiar with Abraham Troy, but I think it's also important for us to go and study who he studied. Thomas Sankara, right? And study Patrice Lumumba, Kwame Nkrumah, and so many other great black African leaders who stood up for their people and was teaching on Pan-Africanism and really just trying to put a stop to the colonization of all the African countries and the imperialization of the white supremacist regime.
And a big shout out to Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
And,
Shout out to Burkina
Indeed.
Faso.
Yeah, and first let me say this real quick. I said Nicaragua just a minute ago. The other Japanese country was Nagasaki.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right.
Nagasaki.
And
Yes.
I send my apologies out there.
That's-
So,
yes.
but so what is Pan-Africanism, and how can Pan-Africanism help shape the psychology of the black mind?
Yeah, that was perfect, brother Franklin, with you speaking on President Abraham Troy. That's a perfect example of Pan-Africanism.
Thank you, brother.
Yes, because Pan-Africanism is when you are for the upliftment of your people and self-sustaining your people, right? And basically self-governing every black person on this planet, regardless of where you are. You're not just concerned with your own country in Burkina Faso, but you're concerned with the whole Africa. And you're concerned with your brothers and sisters in the diaspora. And another brother over in Africa, and I had to shout him out, and that is Julius Malema, the president
Yeah.
of the Economic Freedom Fighters.
Yeah.
Brothers and
That
sisters,
brother be hidden, brother.
please look up that brother because he ain't playing no
He
games.
ain't playing no games. South Africa.
He said, kill the boer, kill the farmer, right? And they even made a song about it, and they tried to outlaw the song, right? But it was a cultural song of inspiration for black people because of the oppression of the Europeans over there in South Africa.
I mean, like
Apartheid.
I'm telling you, brother, that's crazy. I mean, the Europeans in South Africa make up what, maybe 2% of the population, but they own 70, 85% of the land.
Yes.
If that's not slave manipulation, I mean that's crazy, man. I mean,
Yes.
and you get mad at me because I'm taking my land back, my land that you came over and stole 100 years ago. It haven't even been 300 years.
Yeah, and like I was speaking on as far as Julius Malema, economic freedom fighters, he came up under Winnie Mandela. What was it, the ANC?
Yeah, the ANC.
Yeah, he came up under Winnie Mandela. He started out when he was 9 years old. So, he was taught and grown by the best. And, she was taught and she worked with Nelson Mandela, while he was in prison, before he was in prison, while he was in prison, and a little bit after he got out of prison. But, they kind of went their separate ways. But Julius Malema, economic freedom fighters, right, he was coming on so strong that they suspended him from the ANC because he was the president of the Youth Foundation with them. And I just love that name, economic freedom fighters, because we know that a lot of times the oppression and exploitation is for
Economical.
the minerals and the resources, right? In South Africa, they have basically all the uranium that the planet needs, and that's what they make nuclear weapons with,
Yep.
things of that nature, and energy, right? So when we're talking about economics, right, economics is very important, and we got to understand economics is not just dealing with physical money, currency. Economics is dealing with not only a network, but having an economy, basically, where the people are able to sustain themselves, right? And so that's one of the things that's going on in Africa that I see that's very positive. If you had brothers like, Abraham Troy, Julius Malema, and a lot of other brothers and sisters who are standing up and making demands for us to be able to reap the benefits from the resources that's owned by the continent of Africa.
We need some economical freedom fighters here in America. And it's crazy because we're the biggest consumers in America. We spend more money than anybody.
You're right, brother.
But we don't even own a hospital.
Yeah.
No, let me take that back. I got to give Jordan some credit. Jordan got 3 clinics. You see what I'm saying? But other than Jordan, we don't own we don't have a black hospital. We don't have a chain of black supermarkets. I mean, the Hispanics came over here less than 20 years ago, and they got a chain of Hispanic supermarkets. My hat go off to them, because you must do for self in America.
And brother,
That's part of the American dream. Do for self in America.
Well, when we talking about, but see, that's why I remember when I talked about economic development with Raleigh Law 9, the trade and commerce, how we had to pick a project, right? Because, like I had stated on another show that we did here, after a while we get tired of talking about what we ain't got and what we need. Well, let's get it and let's do it, because we had the money to do it, right? The thing of it is when we're operating up under a Western philosophy and Western psychology, we're not going to do anything to benefit our own brothers and sisters, because we have been taught not to trust one another and not to listen to one another, right? Remember what we were able to do after 1865, right? Like I had stated earlier. It's been done before. What happened when we did it? They came and they bombed, they destroyed, they killed, and they burnt down.
But you got to use. But I dig what you're saying, Brother Bobby. But you got to use what they did that time as what we need to do this time. I mean, if you're gonna build you a community, you got to put together an army or some type of man. If you go to the New York to Brooklyn, and you get lost in Bedford-Stuyvesant or one of those neighborhoods, one of those Jewish neighborhoods, they got their own security. I done got lost over there. Can I help you, sir? The man popped out of the bushes like he jumped out of nowhere. Can I help you, sir? Do you know where you're going? Do you need any help? You see what I'm saying? Wrote down my license tag number and everything, right? The problem with us is we look for other people to secure us. We got to secure ourselves, man.
Right.
It's no reason why the black man in America don't have a hospital, don't have a supermarket, don't have a housing. We don't have this in every state, man. We've been over here. We're the first immigrants that they brought over to America, man. We came on the slave ship. We the first ones to arrive. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of us was here before the slave ship, and we still ain't got nothing. We got to stop using that excuse and get something. We got to come together as black people in America, whatever you want to call yourself. We got to come together and do for self. We got to let go Duke Hospital. We got to let go these places, and we got to start our own. We got to create our own, man. I've been working for myself for 30 years. 32 years, I don't know nothing but that, brother.
Right. And one of the things, and that's why, the Raleigh Lock 9 with the 9 ministries is so important, right? Because, like I say, the trade and commerce, right? And we had to build, right? And when we did build before, they destroyed. That's why we have a ministry of defense. And that's why it's important, for people to really look at these 9 ministries that was put together for the local organizing committees by the Nation of Islam, because defense is everything. And the first line of defense is the mind, what we think, how we move, how we operate, how we unify, right? So that's why we always start with the mind, because you can have all the guns in the world, but if your mind ain't right, you ain't gonna know what to do, and you're gonna use it against yourself.
And what you're saying is true, brother.
And you're gonna use it against each other. So discipline is also a big part of what we do in Maya, right? And a part of psycho-spirituality when we talk about controlling your thoughts and controlling your actions, right? So we have these 9 ministries with Raleigh Lock 9 basically to be able to address these issues. And one of the things that we did at the first town hall meeting we had with Raleigh Lock 9, we bring the children, to all our town hall meetings so that they can experience it firsthand and see how serious it is and what we have to do. The reason why it's so important to educate the children and to really focus and concentrate on teaching them the right way is because you're only a child for so long. And they'll be grown in 10 years, 15 years, they'll be adults. And once they're adults, and then basically everything changes for them. So when they had them, so we're not just worried about the children, we worry about the adults too. And that's why we had them town hall meetings to educate the adults as well.
Yes, sir.
But when you teach a child the right way to go. They'll grow up understanding their roles and responsibility with the knowledge of self. It wasn't presented to me when I was a child. When I was born, slavery had only been over for 100 years.
100 years.
That's only a couple of generations that I missed it by.
The same year.
when I got this knowledge, right, this is why I put KCSSU together, while I was in federal prison, because I was determined to come out here and do everything in my power to educate as many black children as possible and adults as well. A lot of times it's a little harder for adults to hear, right? So that's why we start out with the children, right? With our go, which means listen up. And they say our may, which means we're listening. And then we teach them mesker. Fill the ears with listening. Listen attentively, right? And then we take them to one of the proverbs, right? That basically teaches that your heart determines whether you will be a hearer or a non-hearer. Those who hear, it will be a benefit. Those who don't hear, it will be a loss. And that's what happens a lot of times, with our adults, because of the way that they've been, educated in Western philosophy and Western psychology, where we feel like that a black man doesn't have anything valuable to say that's going to be of value to him, his people, his community, and to the world, right? And we also teach what is useful, right? So it's important to teach the things that we can stand on and that we can build on. And that's why I feel like now it's time for us as a people to start back building these structures, because we have enough money in our community. Even if the brothers and sisters who ain't affluent, if we put in $5 a month, $10 a month and get a building fund, we can start building and stop talking about we need hospitals, we need schools, and start building these things.
And I wanna send some special shouts out to Brother Umar Johnson up in Delaware. Umar Johnson got that school together and it's rolling. Brother Umar, but keep up the good work, brother.
Well, and I want to get back to what you teach the students at KCSSU in a moment, but I want to say, chime in on some earlier points, because Brother Franklin made some good points about how we need to be more self-efficient,
right.
And that's what we've been speaking on, about knowledge of self and self-awareness. Yes. Anyhow, and once upon a time, UNIA, the Marcus Garvey movement, down in Tulsa, we had these things, and we was the
most honorable Elijah Muhammad. We can't leave him out.
Of course, the Nation of Islam still thriving as we speak to this day, under Minister Louis Farrakhan. Also,
yes, sir.
So, and we have other entities such as the Greek fraternities and sororities, the Black Greek fraternities and sororities. Do you think they can help African, our people, obtain liberation under that Greek philosophy?
Not up under the Greek philosophy, because
you can't do it.
Greek philosophy is anti-African and anti-black, and that's why, when you look at these HBCUs, right, that breed, these Greek fraternities and sororities, we got to understand that who is it to serve, right? Because that's European philosophy, that's Western philosophy and psychology. So if they're thinking in a way, and they're looking at Socrates and Aristotle, and I've talked to, and I know, brothers that are consider themselves Black Greeks, I know them too, brother. I got friends, right, that I grew up with, right, and so their mentality is that they look down on their brothers and sisters that ain't in a fraternity or sorority.
Classism.
Right, because they don't consider you really a brother, right? Because they look at themselves as Black Greeks. So they see Greeks as higher than Africans.
Yep.
Right, so they're anti-African. Right, that's why, some of them even backed off, because they used to come and support KCSSU at our book bag giveaways and toy giveaways and things like that. Because, we try to unite with all our brothers and sisters, right? And this is important, because the fraternities and the sororities do the same thing that the military does. And they get you when you're young and your mind isn't fully developed. And then they want to shape your mind with the thoughts that they want to put in your mind. And when you let them thoughts sit in, they plant them seeds and you let it germinate, right? And then you'll spend your lifetime in with a false consciousness, which takes place. Now, a lot of the fraternity brothers and sisters, some of them are stepping back, right? Because they're recognizing and realizing that it really is serving the interest of black people, right? They talk about community service, but it's community service like they're going to help people in need, as opposed to I'm going to help my brothers and sisters. Then that's a difference.
Yeah, I mean, you really got to know the definition of community service. You know what I'm saying? I mean, community service, you got to service everybody. You can't just service the old ladies in the rest home, which they need service too. You see what I'm saying? You got to service everybody. What about these kids out here that don't have a mother or father or that's being miseducated? You know what I'm saying? Or not receiving the correct education or not having an education at all. I mean, you got to each one teach one. Each one teach one.
And one point I want to make, right, and I really want people to hone in on this question, right? Is it better to teach a Chinese child or person Chinese culture, African culture, or European culture, or Greek culture, African philosophy, Chinese philosophy, or Greek philosophy, right? And what type of psychology is it best for a Chinese child or adult to have? A Chinese consciousness,
right?
Because it's dealing with their culture. But when it comes to
African,
black people and African, we want to adopt
everybody
culture. We want to adopt. We want to be Greek. We want to be European. We want to be everything but what we are, because we become anti-African. And when we become anti-African and anti-black, we become enemies of ourselves. Yep. And these are some of the challenges that really is slowing down the progress for us as a people. Because as the brother just asked, right, as far as Greek philosophy, if they had an African-centered orientation, and then it would be for the upliftment of black people all over the world. And that's when we're talking about Pan-Africanism.
Yeah. And, and not only in America, I heard, I was watching a podcast and the African brother was saying that the only time that a large percentage of Africans come back to Africa is when they're being buried. Because when they get some education, they go to school in France, America, Germany, or whatever. They buy a house in France, America, and Germany, or whatever. They spend their money there. They bank there. They do everything there. But the only time they come back to Africa is when they're being buried. They want to be buried in the motherland.
Well, I think it's important to understand that when we're talking about how Western psychology has affected the black mind, we ain't just talking about the black mind here in
America.
It's over there too. We talking about all over the planet.
Teach, brother.
Because we coming from a Pan-Africanism perspective, right?
Yes,
I
sir.
see a lot on the internet where African Americans are attacking, Haitians. I'm talking about attacking them verbally, and I think that, and also African Americans attacking Africa, attacking Nigeria, attacking Jamaica, and I think that these people, are agent provocateurs who are being paid to cause a division, a schism amongst us as a people,
amongst us,
right? Because they're going viral, right? And I'm, I'm on a chat with some of my homeboys, and they had some video of a sister that was just going off, calling the Nigerians BAs, black asses, this and that, and all. It's very negative. And I just kindly, because I don't respond to group texts and stuff like that, but I just had to say something. And I said, watch the propaganda, right? Because the propaganda is real. It ain't only divide and conquer, it's divide and rule. Right. So we have got to stop putting one another down and understand the trick that has been played on us, right? Because they want to keep us at each other's throats. And the same thing takes place, with the different African countries. Even when you talk about the African countries, some of them Islam, some of them Christian. They fighting each other, but both of those benefit from them. The Europeans and the Arabs, and both of them benefit from the misery of the African people because we're weakening ourselves. It's over 1.4 billion of us on the planet. In Africa alone, Africans, 1.4 billion, which makes up about 17% of the population on this planet, right? That's not even including us Africans in the diaspora. Here in the United States, it ain't about 40-some million of us. We don't even make up 1% of the total black population on the planet. But yet, we are reluctant, right, to build bridges and make connections and network with our brothers and sisters in the diaspora on the continent. We'd rather hold hands with the enemy.
Yes, sir. That's as my mama would say, that's a mouthful.
Oh yes, yes.
Hey, brother, and what you're saying is very true. We got to start sticking together here and also in the motherland too. We got to come together.
And brother, you're right. We and when we talk about coming together, right, we're talking about consciousness, right? We're talking about awareness. We're talking about operating on the same frequency levels, right, as far as our roles and responsibilities. And that's why the first thing one of the things I said about the black man is we have got to be African warriors and black warriors. And that's not just physical warriors. That's spiritual warriors. That's mental warriors. That's having the values that's going to benefit our people, right, and standing strong, right? Like I said, my yacht is my father's ground. Right, so we have to be deeply, entrenched in the value system, that our ancestors left for us, dealing with truth, justice, and righteousness, and also building, having the mind to build, and like you always say, Brother Franklin, do for self, just like the Nation of Islam say. We have to really do for self. And to do for self, we have to build and create our own institutions that's going to benefit our community and our people, right? We have to have trade centers, where we're learning different trades and we're learning different skills so that we can build for ourselves. This is important. Structure is important.
Yes,
when
sir.
we look at our communities and we understand why it's in a disarray, what's one of the first things they did was separate the black man from the black woman.
Right.
Because they know that the black man is the protection.
You're right about
so
that.
the government want to step in and try to act like they are the father for the black woman.
Right.
That's divide and conquer. We can't blame our women. We can't blame our men. We have to come together and come with a divine understanding, purify our hearts and minds, and figure this thing out on how we have to work together as a people. And that starts with the knowledge of self, valuing the black woman. Brother Escents, right, the brother, our master teacher, he taught probably about a month ago, honoring the black woman from an African-American perspective, right? And the children really picked up on that, right? And Brother Jimmy Stewart, right, one of my good friends for the last 46 years, he really helped break it down when he went to speaking on, the first African woman we need to always honor is our mother, right? And our mother, our grandmother, our sisters, any black woman that we come into contact with, right? And how they have to respect themselves, respect each other, right? And how the men have to respect the women, respect themselves, and respect each other. It all starts with respect, right? Western psychology has taught us not to respect the black man. Black man don't respect your black brother. Black woman don't respect your black man. Black man don't respect your black woman. We all have to work together as a unit, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's why, brother, I wear the R, because it's a symbol of consciousness, and it also stands for eternal life. With that represents the female womb, this represents the black child,
Yes,
and then the phallus represents the black male, right? And as long as we have the black man and the black woman coming together in unison, it's going to produce a black child, right? So that's why nature is so important, because there are basically elements and forces out here that are teaching us to go against nature in the choice in which we want to go as far as our sexuality. That whole LGBTQ movement is anti-African. And I'm glad you mentioned Ibrahim Troy. One of his representatives, right, in 2023 was at the United Nations, right, when they had their national meeting every year. And he gave a speech, and he said this. He said, there will be no homosexuality in Burkina Faso. And then he said, I repeat, there would be no homosexuality in Burkina Faso because it goes against our nature, right? Because the Creator created all, and the Creator makes no mistakes. So a lot of times what they're trying to do is poison our minds, right, by making us think where they was born like that and things of that nature, right? So we really have to pay attention to Western psychology because that comes from Western activity, Western philosophy, the Greeks and all of those. Everybody know about, the even the toga parties and stuff they had here in the United States dealing with homosexuality. That's not the African way, right? You don't see African countries that's basically promoting those type of things. When President Obama tried to get them to open up, they shut it down. In Africa, because they weren't certain things in Africa they're not going to go for, which I think is a good thing. And I think that, with us accepting the Western way of life, that it has unfortunately, helped to push for the effeminization of the black boys, which is dangerous. That's why they don't want the black man in the house, because they know these black boys growing up wrong. Under these black women, what it might produce, right? And that's why, when me and Brother Escents, when we get with them boys, we don't play with them. We talk to them straight up and we educate them. And we let them know that we love them. But at the same time, we let them know that y'all have got to be African warriors. We have got to be strong.
And Brother Ausar,
yes.
Your program KCSSU, which stands for Comedic Cultural Sciences and System of Unity. So you teaching Shatawat Netta,
yes.
The spiritual system through Kemet, which is Mayat, righteousness, truth, justice.
Brother, we got. I don't mean to cut you off, brother. We got 3 minutes to go.
Right.
We got 3 minutes to go, brother.
Why is it important to teach the child their cultural philosophy and way of life? Go ahead.
Yeah, that's good. It's important to teach our culture, right? Because we have a high culture, right? And so, and I didn't get into this, right? But one of the first things we teach about our culture is Mayat, truth, justice, and righteousness. But also, right, our roles and responsibilities, our thoughts, the way we interact with one another, customs and courtesies, right? All of these are teaching and training mechanisms, because the mind is trained through knowledge, and that's how we teach ourselves. So it benefits our children because they ain't gonna never forget what we're teaching, right? Because they love being a part of what we're doing. We believe our children deserve the best. I had some complications, when I first got started because of, I came out on fire because of the studying, but I saw a lot of brothers and sisters, we wanted to give the children the least instead of the most. And we deserve the best as a people, and our children deserve the best. And we're going to give the children the best so that they know that they're not inferior, but in essence, genetically speaking, that they are superior based off of the melanin. So that's why it's important to teach the children their value, their history, their culture, so that they don't pick up on the falsehoods that's going to lead from the school to prison pipeline, but they're going to be standing on Maya, and they're going to be able to reject falsehood.
Well, brothers and sisters, Brother Bobby, give me your information, brother. We can really get out of here. We got a minute to go, brother. We got a minute to go. Give me your information. How can the people get in contact with you, Brother Bobby?
Yeah, you can get in contact with me through email at kcssunity@gmail, or you can give me a call at 919-690-9617. Also, you can reach out to me about the Volley Lock 9. If anybody want to be a part of the 9 ministries, we got a big town hall meeting coming up August 5th at John Chavis Memorial Park, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. This Saturday, we're going to be at the Volley Millbank Community Garden, our community garden, Volley Lock 9, Palmetto Futures, with Sister Kibri and Dr. Sauls, KCSSU, and Volley Millbank, the Monroe Group, who owns the Volley Millbank Community Garden. If anybody would like to come out and participate with us in tilling the land, getting the soil right, it's the 1600 block of Burgundy Street, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27610. We're going to have food, music, and we're going to have tools out there so we can get the ground right and start growing food for ourselves.
Well, we would like to thank you for tuning in to another episode of Crossing the Line Talkback Radio. I'm Brother Franklin, and I'm your host. And I really thank you for tuning in and listening on the radio waves as well as the internet waves too as well. Once again, this is Brother Bobbitt, and my host today is Brother Devine. Brother Devine, he did a great job, brother.
Yes, indeed.
He did a great job, brother.
Yes.
He did a great job.
Thank you.
Once again, we'd like to thank you for tuning in. Crossing the Line Talkback Radio, where everybody has a voice. Thanks for listening.
Nice.
See you next time.
African liberation.
Peace.